It was supposed to be just another ordinary morning in class. The room buzzed with chatter as students hurried to settle down, notebooks open, pens tapping nervously. Among them sat Marcus, a quiet black teenager who usually kept to himself. He wasn't the loudest or the funniest, but he was the kind of student who always came prepared. Homework done, books neat, answers ready, but that day, everything changed. As the teacher walked in, the air shifted. Her eyes swept across the classroom until they landed on Marcus. She held up a paper and said in a sharp voice, "Marcus, you expect me to believe this? This can't be your work. Subscribe and join our community." The room fell silent. A few students exchanged glances. Some smirked. Marcus froze. His heart sank. Not because his answer was wrong, but because of what her words really meant. She wasn't questioning the paper. She was questioning him. For a moment, Marcus thought maybe he should just stay quiet, let it pass. But deep down, he knew this wasn't about a single assignment. This was about something much bigger. What he didn't realize was that the truth he carried with him that day wouldn't just defend him, it would silence the entire classroom. Marcus sat there, his paper still clutched tightly in his hand. He could feel every eye in the classroom burning into him. The teacher's voice cut again, harsher this time. "Don't lie to me. There's no way you wrote this essay on your own." Laughter rippled through the room. A few students whispered, under their breath, throwing quick glances at Marcus as if he had been caught cheating. His chest tightened. He wanted to speak, but his throat felt dry. His words stuck. He had worked all night on that essay. Every line, every idea, every reference. He had poured himself into it. But none of that seemed to matter. In that moment, he wasn't just a student handing in an assignment. To her, he was a black teenager who couldn't possibly be smart enough to write something so good. Marcus swallowed hard, forcing his voice to come out steady. "I wrote it. Every word." The teacher narrowed her eyes, unimpressed. She stepped closer, holding up the essay like it was a piece of evidence. "Then explain this. How did you use sources from journals most college students don't even know exist?" A murmur filled the room. Students leaned forward, some mocking, others curious. Marcus could feel the walls closing in, but he refused to back down. He took a breath. "Because I read, because I work, because I stay up studying while everyone else is asleep." His voice cracked, but his words cut through the room. "Just because you don't expect it from me doesn't mean I can't do it." The laughter stopped. For the first time, the class grew still. A few students looked away, uncomfortable. But the teacher wasn't done. She crossed her arms, her tone sharp with doubt. "If that's true, then prove it. Right now. Stand up. And tell this class what your essay was really about." Marcus's hands trembled as he pushed his chair back. His legs felt heavy, but he stood. With the entire class staring, he began to speak. At first, his voice was low, shaky. But as he went on, his words gained power. He talked about history, about justice, about voices that had been silenced for centuries. He spoke with passion, with knowledge that none of them expected. Every sentence came alive, weaving facts with conviction. The students who had laughed earlier sat frozen, their smirks gone. A hush spread across the classroom. For the first time, Marcus wasn't just defending himself, he was commanding the room. But just when the silence grew thick with awe, the teacher interrupted, her voice sharp and cutting. "That's enough. Sit down." Her face was pale, her eyes uncertain. The class could sense it. The teacher wasn't in control anymore, and Marcus knew it too. What he said next would either break him completely or silence the room forever. Marcus didn't sit down. His chest rose and fell as he looked straight at his teacher. For the first time all day, his voice was steady, strong, and unshaken. "You called me a liar," he said, each word echoing in the silent classroom. But what you really meant was, you didn't believe someone like me could do this. The teacher's face tightened. A flicker of panic passed through her eyes, but she said nothing. Marcus took a step forward. His hands no longer trembled. His voice grew louder, carrying through the room like a force no one could ignore. I've worked harder than anyone in this room. I've read the books no one else touches. I've studied because I have to fight twice as hard just to be seen, as equal. And today, instead of recognizing that, you tried to tear me down. The students sat frozen, phones quietly lifted, cameras rolling, capturing every word. What started as humiliation had transformed into something else, something powerful. Marcus's eyes glistened, but he refused to let them see weakness. I am not a liar. I am not a cheat. I am a student who earned his place, his words, his voice. And you can't take that from me. For a moment, the room was still. The silence was so heavy it felt like the walls themselves were listening. Then, applause. It started with one student in the back, clapping softly, then another, and then the entire class erupted in cheers. The sound filled the room, louder than the teacher's authority, louder than doubt, louder than prejudice. The teacher's face turned pale. Her voice faltered as she tried to regain control. "That's enough! Quiet down!" she shouted. But no one listened. Marcus stood tall, his heart pounding, not with fear, but with triumph. In that moment, the power had shifted, and the teacher realized the truth had silenced her, and there was no going back. When the noise finally faded, Marcus sat back down, his hands still shaking, but not from fear this time. From power. From pride. The same classmates who had laughed at him hours ago were now looking at him with respect, some even with guilt. The teacher avoided his eyes. She shuffled her papers, her voice trembling as she tried to continue the lesson. But everyone knew it was over. She hadn't just lost control of her class. She had lost her mask. That night, Marcus walked home with his backpack heavier than usual, not because of the books inside, but because of the weight that had finally been lifted from his shoulders. For once, he didn't feel invisible. For once, he wasn't just the black kid in the classroom. He was Marcus, the boy who stood up, the boy who spoke truth, the boy who couldn't be silenced. But deep down, he knew this wasn't just his story. This was the story of thousands who are doubted, dismissed, and labeled before they're even given a chance. For every Marcus who finds the courage to speak, there are countless others who stay silent, out of fear, out of exhaustion, out of survival. And that's the tragedy, because their voices matter too. So here's the question we're left with. How many more Marcuses will it take before society truly listens? Before the word equal means exactly what it should? Marcus didn't just prove his teacher wrong that day, he proved something bigger. That truth, no matter how small, is stronger than prejudice. And that sometimes, one voice, spoken at the right moment, can change everything. Now the story is in your hands. Will you listen? Will you share? Will you be part of the change? If this story touched you, don't just watch. Be part of the change. Hit subscribe and join our community of voices that matter.